I'm sorry, but we don't have your reservation in the system. Dr. Marcus Johnson stared at the host standing behind the polished mahogany podium at Le Jardin, the restaurant he'd been trying to get into for 2 months. His wife, Keisha, stood beside him in the black dress she'd bought specifically for tonight. Their 2 teenagers, Amara, 16, and Jardin, 14, shifted uncomfortably in clothes they never wore, dressed up for what was supposed to be their parents' 20th anniversary dinner. 20 years, and Marcus had wanted it perfect. That's impossible, Marcus said, keeping his voice level. I made this reservation 8 weeks ago. I called 3 times to confirm. Last time was yesterday. The host, 25, white, wearing the kind of smile that didn't reach his eyes, tapped at his tablet. I'm looking, sir, but there's nothing under Johnson for tonight. Subscribe right now if you've ever been treated like you don't belong somewhere you earned the right to be. Because what this family discovers next will make you scream at your screen. Marcus pulled out his phone, showed the confirmation email. Reservation for 8 p.m. Table requested by the window. Everything documented. The host barely glanced at it. I see the email, but it's not in our system. There must have been a technical error when you booked. I apologize for the confusion, but we're completely full tonight. A technical error, Keisha repeated. Her voice had that edge Marcus recognized. The one that meant she was about 5 seconds from transitioning from corporate attorney mode to let me speak to whoever makes decisions mode. Yes, ma'am. These things happen with online booking systems. I can offer you a reservation for next month. Next month? Marcus felt Amara's hand on his arm. Felt Jardin standing close, watching everything with the quiet awareness of a black kid who'd learned young that these moments happened, and you had to stay calm even when calm was the last thing you felt. Dad, it's okay, Amara whispered. We can go somewhere else. But Marcus saw something that made his blood pressure spike. Past the host stand, in the main dining room, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, was a table, empty, with a small brass plaque that read, Reserved, Johnson, 8 p.m., his table. The one he'd specifically requested because Keisha loved watching the city lights. That table, Marcus said, pointing, it has my name on it. The host's smile flickered. Sir, that's reserved for another Johnson party. Another Johnson party. At 8 p.m. For 4 people. What a coincidence. It happens, sir. Johnson is a common name. Then let me speak to your manager. Sir, I assure you. Let me speak to your manager. Now. The host's professional mask slipped for just a second. Marcus saw it, the flash of annoyance, the silent calculation of whether this was worth the trouble. The decision that yes, he'd better get the manager before this escalated. One moment, please. He disappeared into the restaurant. Marcus stood with his family in the entrance while other patrons, all white, all clearly belonging in this space, in ways the Johnsons apparently didn't walk past them to their tables. We should go, Keisha said quietly. I don't want to fight tonight. We're not fighting. We have a reservation. We're going to eat dinner. Marcus. Baby, I spent 2 months planning this. I'm not letting. He stopped. Because through the entrance, a family was arriving. White, parents in their 40s, 2 kids slightly younger than Amara and Jardin, and the host, the same host who'd just told Marcus the restaurant was completely full, was greeting them with genuine warmth. Good evening. Welcome to Le Jardin. Do you have a reservation? Williams, the father said. Party of 4. The host checked his tablet. Frowned. I'm not seeing Williams for tonight. But you know what? We just had a cancellation. Perfect timing. Right this way. Marcus felt Keisha's hand grip his arm, felt his kids go very still beside him. The host led the Williams family past them, into the dining room, toward the windows, toward the table with the brass plaque that said, "Reserved, Johnson, 8 p.m., the table Marcus had requested, the table that supposedly didn't exist in their system, the table that was reserved for another Johnson, being given to a family named Williams, who didn't have a reservation, who'd just walked in." Marcus pulled out his phone, started recording. Because this wasn't a technical error, this wasn't a coincidence, this was exactly what it looked like. And he wasn't going to let it happen quietly. "Excuse me," Marcus called out, his voice carried across the entrance. The host turned. So did the Williams family. So did several diners near the entrance. "That's my table, the one you just gave to them, the one with my name on it." The host's face went pale. "Sir," I explained. "You explained that there was no reservation, but there's clearly a reserved sign with my name. And you just gave it to a family that doesn't have a reservation at all." The Williams father looked uncomfortable. "Look, if there's been a mistake, there's been a mistake," Marcus said, not angry, not yelling, just stating facts. "But it's not the kind the host is claiming." "Sir, please don't make a scene." "I'm not making a scene. I'm standing in a restaurant where I have a confirmed reservation, watching my table get given to someone else. What would you call that?" The manager finally appeared. 40-something, white, expensive suit. The kind of smile that wealthy people learn sympathetic but ultimately dismissive. "I'm Michael Brennan, general manager. I understand there's been some confusion." "No confusion," Marcus said. "I have a reservation. You can see it right there." He pointed at the brass plaque. "But your host told me it didn't exist. Then gave my table to a family that walked in without a reservation." Brennan looked at the table, at the plaque, at the Williams family standing awkwardly, at Marcus and his family. Marcus could see the calculation happening, the decision being made about who mattered more, who was worth accommodating, who could be dismissed. "Mr. Johnson, I sincerely apologize for the mix-up. There seems to have been a system error." "There was no system error. Your host looked at my family and decided we didn't belong here. So he lied about the reservation, and then gave our table to the first white family that walked in." "Sir, that's a serious accusation. It's a documented accusation. I have the confirmation email. I have video of your host telling me there's no reservation. I have video of him seating that family at my table 30 seconds later. And I have 20 years of experience knowing exactly what this is." Brennan's smile was gone now. "Mr. Johnson, I think it would be best if you left." "We're not leaving. We're eating dinner. At our table, the one we reserved 2 months ago. Sir, if you don't leave voluntarily, I'll call the police." Keisha stepped forward. "I'm an attorney. Specifically, I handle discrimination cases. And what you just said, threatening to call the police on a black family with a valid reservation while giving their table to a white family without one, that's textbook discrimination. So please, call the police. I'd love to have them document this." Brennan's face flushed red. The Williams family was already backing away, clearly wanting no part of whatever this was becoming. Other diners were watching now. Phones coming out. This was about to be very public. I'll find you another table," Brennan said finally. "We don't want another table," Marcus said. "We want the table we reserved, the one with our name on it. That one. That table is ours. According to the reservation you claim doesn't exist but clearly does, because there's a sign with my name on it. They stood in the entrance of Le Jardin, Marcus and his family on one side, the manager and host on the other, and every person in the restaurant watching to see who would blink first. Because this wasn't about dinner anymore. It was about whether a black family could claim the space they'd earned without having to fight for every inch of it. And Marcus was done pretending this was okay. The standoff lasted 30 seconds. Felt like 30 minutes. Finally, Brennan broke. "Mr. and Mrs. Williams, I'm terribly sorry, but there's been a mistake. Let me find you another table, an even better one. Complimentary appetizers for the inconvenience." The Williams father nodded quickly. "Of course, we understand." They were ushered away to a different section. And Marcus's table, the one by the window, the one he'd requested specifically, was suddenly available. "Right this way," Brennan said through gritted teeth. Marcus's family followed the manager through the dining room, every eye on them, some sympathetic, some uncomfortable, some openly hostile. The whispers followed them to their table. Can you believe he made such a scene? If they had a reservation, why wasn't it in the system? There are ways to handle these things. Marcus seated his family. Keisha's jaw was tight. Amara was scrolling through her phone, probably texting friends about what just happened. Jardin stared at the menu like it was a shield. "I'm sorry," Marcus said quietly. "Don't apologize," Keisha said. "You were right. This is our table. We earned it. I wanted tonight to be special. It is special because you stood up. Because you didn't let them erase us." She reached across the table, took his hand. 20 years, Marcus. 20 years of you fighting for us. For our family. That doesn't stop just because we're in a fancy restaurant. A waiter appeared, young, Latino, nervous. "Good evening. My name is Carlos. I'll be taking care of you tonight. Can I start you with something to drink?" Marcus ordered wine. Keisha ordered water. The kids ordered sodas. Carlos disappeared quickly. "Dad?" Jordan's voice was small. "Why did that happen?" Marcus looked at his 14-year-old son. At the confusion and hurt in his eyes. At the question every black parent eventually had to answer. Because some people make assumptions based on how we look. And those assumptions make them treat us differently. But we had a reservation. We did. But the host saw a black family and decided we probably didn't. So he lied. That's not fair. No, it's not. But it's real. And it's why we don't stay quiet when it happens. Amara looked up from her phone. "I posted the video. Mom, is that okay?" Keisha and Marcus exchanged glances. "What video?" "The one Dad took. Of the host giving our table to that other family. It's already got 300 views." Marcus pulled out his phone. Opened Instagram. There it was. 7 minutes of footage. The host claiming no reservation. The Williams family being seated at the Johnson table. Marcus confronting the manager. Brennan threatening to call police. The comments were already flooding in. "This is disgusting. I'm never eating here. That manager should be fired." Clear discrimination. But how do we know they actually had a reservation? Maybe it really was a system error. Oh please. They gave the table to a white family without a reservation. That's not an error. "Amara, you should probably take it down," Keisha started. "No," Marcus said. "Leave it up. People need to see this. This restaurant needs to answer for this. Marcus, if this goes viral, then maybe they'll think twice before doing it to someone else." Carlos returned with drinks. Set them down carefully. Leaned in slightly. "Sir, I'm sorry about what happened. The host. He does this." "Does what?" Carlos glanced around, making sure no managers were listening. Cancels reservations for certain clients. He says it's to maintain the restaurant's aesthetic, which is code for keeping out people who don't look like the usual clientele. How often does this happen? Often enough that the staff notices. Often enough that we've complained to management. Nothing changes. The host is the owner's nephew. The owner, James Brennan, Michael's older brother. He owns Le Jardin and 3 other restaurants in the city. The host, Tyler, is his sister's kid, untouchable because of family. Marcus processed this. You're telling me this is policy? I'm not telling you anything official. I'm just saying you're not the first, and you won't be the last. Unless someone makes noise loud enough that they can't ignore it. Carlos straightened. Now, can I take your order? They ordered. Carlos left, and Marcus made a decision. He called David Chen, his best friend since college, attorney specializing in civil rights. Picked up on the second ring. Marcus, happy anniversary, man. How's the fancy dinner? Complicated. I need a legal favor. Marcus explained everything. The cancelled reservation, the table given to the Williams family, Brennan's threat to call police, Carlos's revelation about systematic discrimination. David was silent for a moment. You have it all documented? Video, email confirmations. The works. Don't post anything else until I review it. That video Amara posted, it's good. It establishes the incident. But don't do interviews, don't talk to press, don't make any statements. Let me build a case first. What kind of case? Discrimination. Civil rights violation. Depending on what I find, maybe a pattern and practice lawsuit if other customers have experienced the same thing. Carlos said they have. Then I'll need to talk to Carlos. Off the record first. And Marcus, finish your dinner. Order the most expensive thing on the menu. Enjoy your anniversary. Because by tomorrow, Le Jardin is going to wish they'd just given you your table quietly. Dinner was strange. The food was exceptional, Marcus had to admit that. But every bite felt like making a point. Every course was evidence that they belonged there, that they had every right to occupy this space. Other diners stared. Some looked away when Marcus met their eyes. Others smiled small, sympathetic gestures of solidarity. The table next to them, older black couple, probably in their 70s, leaned over between courses. We saw what happened, the woman said quietly. Thank you for not backing down. It shouldn't have happened at all, Keisha said. No, but it does. More than people realize. My husband and I have been mysteriously unable to get reservations at half the restaurants in this city. We stopped trying. She smiled sadly. Maybe we shouldn't have. Michael Brennan made rounds during service, stopping at every table to check on guests. He pointedly avoided the Johnsons until dessert, when he finally approached with a forced smile. I hope everything has been to your satisfaction this evening. The food is excellent, Marcus said. Shame about the discrimination. Brennan's smile tightened. Mr. Johnson, I've apologized for the confusion. It wasn't confusion. It was your host looking at my black family and deciding we didn't have a reservation. Then giving our table to a white family that didn't have one either. That's a serious accusation without proof. Marcus pulled out his phone. Showed the video still on Amara's Instagram. Now at 15,000 views. This is proof. And if your host does this regularly, which I'm told he does, there's going to be a lot more proof coming. Brennan's face went white. I don't know what staff member told you that, but does it matter? What matters is you run a restaurant that systematically discriminates against customers of color. And now it's documented. Mr. Johnson, Perhaps we can discuss this privately. There's nothing to discuss. We came here for dinner. You tried to deny us the table we reserved. When called out, you threatened us with police. That's not a private matter. That's a public record of discrimination. Brennan looked around, realized other tables were listening. I'll have your meal comped. We don't want a comp. We want accountability. We want a guarantee this doesn't happen to anyone else. And frankly, we want your host fired. Tyler is family. Then your family has a racism problem. Brennan walked away without another word. When the check came, despite Brennan's offer to comp it, Marcus paid full price, left a generous tip for Carlos, and walked out of Le Jardin with his head high and his family intact. In the parking lot, Keisha pulled him close. 20 years, and you're still fighting for us. Always. Good, because I called the local news while you were paying. They want an interview tomorrow. Marcus laughed. You're terrifying when you're angry. I'm an attorney. It's literally my job. Amara looked up from her phone. Guys, the video has 50,000 views. And someone started a hashtag, #JardinGate. That's not even clever, Jordan said. Doesn't matter. It's trending. Marcus looked back at the restaurant, at the warm light spilling from windows, at the expensive cars in the parking lot, at the space that had tried to exclude his family and failed. Tomorrow Le Jardin would wake up to a social media firestorm, to legal demands, to questions they couldn't answer without admitting what everyone already knew. But tonight, Marcus went home with his wife and kids, with the memory of standing his ground, with the knowledge that he'd taught his children something important, that dignity wasn't negotiable, no matter how expensive the restaurant. Some lessons were worth more than perfect anniversary dinners. Some fights were worth the discomfort. And some tables were worth claiming, even when the whole room wanted you to leave. But what Marcus didn't know, what none of them knew, was that Carlos wasn't the only staff member who witnessed systematic discrimination. And tomorrow, when David Chen started making calls, he was going to discover that Le Jardin's racism went much deeper than one host making bad decisions. It was policy, it was profit. And it was about to cost the Brennan family everything. The video exploded overnight. By morning, Amara's Instagram post had 200,000 views. Someone had reposted it to Twitter, where it got another 500,000. TikTok picked it up. Facebook. Within 18 hours of the Johnsons walking out of Le Jardin, the internet knew exactly what had happened, and the internet was furious. Upscale restaurant caught giving black families reservation to white family. Le Jardin manager threatens to call police on family with valid reservation, #JardinGate. When discrimination comes with a side of entitlement, Marcus woke to 73 texts, 32 calls, 4 news requests, and an email from David Chen that just said, "Call me, now." He called. "I've got 8 staff members willing to talk," David said without preamble. Current and former employees. All with stories about Tyler Brennan systematically canceling reservations for Black and Latino customers. All documented. Emails, texts, internal communications. How did you find them so fast? I didn't. They found me. Your video. It opened floodgates. People have been waiting for someone to finally call this out publicly. What kind of documentation? One server saved emails from 2 years ago where Tyler explicitly told staff to space out minority reservations. Another has texts where Michael Brennan, the manager, instructed hosts to say they were fully booked if too many non-white customers were seated in the main dining room. There's a whole system. They call it aesthetic management. Marcus felt sick. They have a name for it. They have a policy for it. And it's not just Le Jardin. James Brennan owns 4 restaurants. 3 of them have similar complaints. How many people? In the past 3 years, we've identified 47 families or individuals who had reservations mysteriously disappear from the system. 39 of them were people of color. That's not coincidence. That's pattern and practice. What do? You let me file a federal lawsuit. Discrimination, civil rights violations. And Marcus, we're not going after just Le Jardin. We're going after James Brennan personally. His whole restaurant group. Hit them where it actually hurts. I just wanted to have dinner with my family. I know. But sometimes, one dinner changes everything. You ready for this? Marcus looked at Keisha, who'd been listening on speaker. She nodded. Do it. David Chen filed the lawsuit at 10 a.m. By noon, news outlets were calling it the most comprehensive discrimination case against an upscale restaurant chain in years. By evening, 3 more attorneys had joined the case, representing 15 additional families who'd experienced similar treatment. Le Jardin's social media went dark. Their phones went to voicemail. James Brennan refused interview requests. But the staff kept talking. Carlos, the waiter who'd helped Marcus, gave a video interview to a local news station. We've been trying to tell management for years. They don't care. Tyler Brennan cancels reservations whenever he decides the restaurant has too many of the wrong kind of people. He actually said that. And management supported it because they thought it protected their brand. Another server, a black woman named Tamika, 29, who'd worked at Le Jardin for 5 years before quitting. I watched it happen constantly. Black families with reservations being told there was no table. Latino families being seated in the back, away from windows, away from where people could see them. And if you complained, if you tried to point it out, you were told you were being too sensitive, or you were let go. A former host, white, 23, who'd quit after 3 months. Tyler trained me, literally told me which customers to prioritize. He used words like clientele and aesthetic, but it was clear what he meant. White customers got the best tables. Everyone else got whatever was left. And if we were fully booked, we were supposed to lose reservations for minority customers and save those tables for walk-ins who looked more appropriate. I quit because I couldn't do it anymore. The evidence piled up, screenshots of texts, saved emails, testimony from dozens of staff members and customers, all painting the same picture. Le Jardin had turned discrimination into corporate policy. James Brennan finally made a statement 3 days after the lawsuit was filed, a carefully worded press release from expensive lawyers. The Brennan Restaurant Group takes allegations of discrimination seriously. We are conducting a thorough internal investigation and will address any policy violations we discover. Tyler Brennan has been placed on administrative leave pending the outcome of this investigation. We remain committed to providing exceptional dining experiences to all our valued guests. It was a masterclass in saying nothing while sounding concerned. The internet wasn't buying it. Administrative leave equals paid vacation for racism. Internal investigation equals we'll investigate ourselves and find nothing wrong. Notice how they don't actually deny doing. David Chen released his own statement. Our lawsuit includes sworn testimony from 16 current and former employees documenting systematic discrimination over multiple years. This was not one employee making bad decisions. This was corporate policy designed to exclude customers of color. No amount of carefully worded PR will change that. Marcus did one interview with a local news anchor who'd been following the story from the beginning. Dr. Johnson, Some people are saying you made too big a deal out of a simple reservation mix-up. How do you respond? Marcus looked directly at the camera. It wasn't a mix-up. It was discrimination. My family had a valid reservation that was deliberately cancelled because of how we looked. And when we called them out, we were threatened with police. That's not a mix-up. That's systemic racism. The Brennan family says they're investigating. The Brennan family created the policy that allowed this to happen. Tyler Brennan didn't act alone. He acted with the knowledge and support of management. We have documentation proving that. What do you want to happen? I want Le Jardin and every restaurant in the Brennan group to acknowledge what they did, to compensate the families they excluded, to implement actual, enforceable anti-discrimination policies. And I want Tyler Brennan fired. Not administrative leave. Fired. Because what he did wasn't a mistake, it was deliberate, and it hurt real people. The interview aired that night, was clipped and shared 500,000 times. And the next morning, 3 major corporations announced they were pulling their corporate accounts from Le Jardin. No more business dinners. No more client entertainment. No more 6-figure contracts. The boycott had begun. Keisha fielded calls from other attorneys wanting to join the case, from civil rights organizations offering support, from journalists wanting the full story. But the call that mattered most came from someone unexpected, Eleanor Williams, the mother of the white family who'd been given the Johnsons' table. Mrs. Johnson, I hope it's okay that I'm calling. Your attorney gave me your number. I wanted to apologize. Keisha put the phone on speaker so Marcus could hear. You don't need to apologize, Mrs. Williams. You didn't know. I should have known. We walked right past your family. I saw you standing there, and I didn't question why you weren't being seated. I didn't ask why they gave us a table without a reservation when you clearly had one. I assumed we deserved it more, and that assumption is exactly the problem. Marcus spoke up. Mrs. Williams, I don't blame you. You should, because I'm complicit. I benefited from discrimination, and I didn't even notice until I saw myself on that video. My husband and I talked about it. Our kids asked us why that happened, and we had to admit we don't have a good answer, except that we've been taught our whole lives that spaces like that are for us, and we never questioned it. What are you saying? I'm saying we want to help. We've written affidavits for your attorney, confirming exactly what happened, confirming we didn't have a reservation, confirming they gave us your table, and we're willing to testify if this goes to trial. Keisha and Marcus looked at each other. Why would you do that? Because our kids are watching. And I want them to see us on the right side of this. I want them to know that when you benefit from injustice, you have a responsibility to help fix it. Even if it's uncomfortable. Especially if it's uncomfortable. After the call ended, Marcus sat in silence for a moment. She didn't have to do that. No, but she did. And maybe that's how things change. Not just people like us fighting, but people like her, refusing to accept the privilege. You think others will? I think some will, and that's a start. 2 weeks after the lawsuit was filed, James Brennan requested a meeting, not through lawyers, not through official channels. A direct phone call to David Chen, asking to speak with Marcus and Keisha personally. It's unusual, David said. Usually defendants avoid direct contact, but he specifically asked for you. Is it a trap? Keisha asked. Not legally, but it could be an attempt to pressure you into a settlement before this gets worse for them. How much worse can it get? Le Jardin lost 30% of their reservations in 2 weeks. 2 corporate sponsors pulled out completely. And we just got contacted by the Department of Justice. They're opening their own investigation into discrimination practices at all 4 Brennan restaurants. Marcus whistled. Federal investigation? Your video started something bigger than one reservation. It exposed a pattern, and now the government wants to know how deep it goes. They agreed to meet, neutral location. David present as counsel, recording everything. James Brennan looked smaller in person, 58 years old. Grey hair that probably looked distinguished in photographs, but just looked tired in a conference room at David's firm. His brother Michael sat beside him. So did Tyler, the host who'd started this whole thing. And 3 lawyers in expensive suits. Dr. Johnson, Mrs. Johnson, thank you for agreeing to meet. Marcus didn't respond, just waited. James cleared his throat. I want to apologize, personally. What happened to your family at Le Jardin was unacceptable. Tyler made a serious error in judgment. Stop, Marcus said. Don't insult us by calling this an error in judgment. We have testimony from 16 employees saying this was policy, saying Tyler did this regularly, saying you knew about it. I didn't know the extent. You profited from it. Your restaurants maintained their aesthetic by excluding customers of color. That wasn't Tyler's idea. That was yours. James looked at his lawyers. One of them leaned forward. Mr. Johnson, we're prepared to offer a settlement, full refund of your meal, $5,000 for your inconvenience, a formal apology, and implementation of new training programs. No, Keisha said. Mrs. Johnson, I haven't finished. You can finish. We're still saying no. Because this isn't about $5,000 and sensitivity training. This is about your clients running restaurants that systematically discriminate against people of color, and we're not interested in quiet settlements that let them continue. What do you want? Michael Brennan spoke for the first time. Seriously, what will make this go away? It's not going away, Marcus said. The Department of Justice is investigating. You've lost contracts. You're losing customers. This isn't something you can pay to disappear. Then what's the point of this meeting? Your brother asked for it. We're wondering the same thing. James Brennan looked at Tyler, at his nephew who'd turned discrimination into policy and thought family connections would protect him. Tyler, you need to apologize. Tyler's jaw tightened. For what? Following policy. The room went silent. Tyler, James started. No. You told me to maintain standards, to make sure the restaurant attracted the right clientele, to protect the brand. I did exactly what you asked. I never told you to discriminate. You didn't have to say it explicitly. You said, maintain aesthetic. You said, preserve the experience. You said, our customers expect a certain environment. We all knew what that meant. Marcus watched James Brennan's face. Watched him realize his nephew had just confessed to everything in a recorded meeting. One of the lawyers stood. This meeting is over. Tyler, don't say anything else. But Tyler was past caring. You want to fire me? Fine, but I'm not taking the fall alone. Every policy I followed came from corporate. Every decision I made was approved by management. You trained me to do this. And now you're acting surprised that it's finally being called what it is. He stood, walked out, left his uncle and brother and lawyers sitting in stunned silence. David Chen was trying not to smile. Gentlemen, I think we're done here. Unless you'd like to continue this conversation where your client confesses to more federal crimes. James Brennan looked at Marcus. What do you want, really? I want your restaurants to stop discriminating. I want every family you excluded to receive compensation. I want actual oversight, not internal investigations, but independent monitoring. I want Tyler fired. And I want you to admit publicly that this happened, not careful PR statements. Actual admission of what your restaurants did and why it was wrong. That will destroy my business. Your business was built on discrimination. If admitting that destroys it, maybe it deserved to be destroyed. The settlement took 3 more weeks to negotiate. Not because Marcus and Keisha wanted money, though they were awarded $250,000 that they immediately donated to civil rights organizations, but because David insisted on terms that would actually change things. Final settlement terms: public admission of systematic discrimination across all Brennan Restaurant Group properties. Compensation fund of $2 million for families who experienced discrimination. Independent civil rights monitors for all 4 restaurants. For 5 years, mandatory anti-discrimination training for all staff, including management. Tyler Brennan terminated immediately, barred from any position in the restaurant group. Monthly public reporting of customer demographics and reservation practices, and one term Marcus insisted on personally: priority reservation system for customers who'd previously been denied service, valid for 5 years. I want every family they excluded to be able to walk into Le Jardin with their heads high. Marcus told David, I want them to claim that space. And I want the Brennans to have to watch. The day the settlement was announced, Marcus received a call from Carlos, the waiter who'd first told him about the discrimination. Dr. Johnson, I just wanted to say thank you. They're bringing back 3 employees who were fired for complaining about the discrimination. They're giving us raises, and they're actually listening now. Like really listening. About how to make these restaurants places where everyone feels welcome. That's good, Carlos. It's more than good. It's what should have been happening all along. But it took someone like you standing up to make it happen. After the call, Marcus sat with Keisha on their couch. The kids were at school. The house was quiet. Was it worth it? Keisha asked. The fight, the stress, the past month of our lives being consumed by this. Marcus thought about the 47 families who'd been excluded, about the staff members who'd tried to speak up and been silenced, about Tyler Brennan confessing to systematic discrimination on a recorded call, about independent monitors who would now ensure this couldn't happen quietly anymore. Yeah, he said. It was worth it. Good. Because I already scheduled our first priority reservation for next month. Anniversary do-over. Marcus laughed. You're really going to make me go back there? Absolutely. We're going to walk in with our heads high. We're going to sit at our table by the window, and we're going to enjoy the meal we should have had the first time. Because that space doesn't get to reject us anymore. You're terrifying. I'm your wife. It's literally my job. But there was one more call Marcus needed to make. One conversation that had been weighing on him since the settlement was finalized. He dialed the number Eleanor Williams had left. She answered on the 3rd ring. Mrs. Williams, it's Marcus Johnson. Dr. Johnson. I was hoping you'd call. I saw the settlement announcement. Congratulations. I wanted to thank you. For the affidavit. For testifying. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. My kids asked me about it last week. They wanted to know why we got the table. I told them the truth, that we benefited from discrimination, that the restaurant treated us better because of how we looked. My daughter asked if that made us racist. What did you tell her? I told her it made us complicit, that we didn't create the discrimination, but we benefited from it. And that when you benefit from injustice, you have a responsibility to help fix it. She asked what we were going to do to fix it. And I told her we already started. By testifying, by refusing to stay silent, by teaching her to notice when systems are rigged in her favor and to use that privilege to change things. Marcus felt something loosen in his chest. That's a good answer. My husband and I talked. We're pulling our business from the other Brennan restaurants until they implement the same reforms. And we're donating to the compensation fund. It's not much, but it's something. It's more than most people do. It's less than we should have done years ago. But better late than never, right? After the call ended, Marcus pulled up the video that had started everything. Amara's Instagram post. Now at 3 million views, thousands of comments. Some supportive, some hateful, some from people sharing their own stories of being excluded, questioned, denied. One comment stood out. I was mysteriously unable to get a reservation at Le Jardin 3 years ago. Same thing, confirmation email, no table when I arrived. I was told it was a system error. I'm a black woman, I'm a surgeon, and I believed them when they said it was an accident. Thank you for proving it wasn't. Thank you for fighting when I didn't. 46 other comments told similar stories. 46 other families who'd been told it was a mistake, an error, bad luck, who'd accepted the lie because fighting seemed too hard. Marcus had fought, and in fighting, he'd given 46 other people permission to acknowledge what had happened to them wasn't their imagination. That was worth something. 3 months after the settlement, Marcus and Keisha returned to Le Jardin, priority reservation. Table by the window, the same table they'd been denied. The restaurant looked the same. Floor-to-ceiling windows, polished mahogany, soft lighting. But something fundamental had changed. The host who greeted them was new. A young black woman, maybe 26, with natural hair and a genuine smile. Good evening. Welcome to Le Jardin, Dr. and Mrs. Johnson. That's us. Your table is ready, right this way. She led them through the dining room. Past other diners, Marcus noticed the diversity immediately. Black families, Latino couples, Asian professionals. The room looked like the city it was supposed to serve. Their table was exactly as Marcus had imagined it 3 months ago. Window view of the city lights. Perfect for an anniversary. A different manager approached. A black man, early 40s, professional but warm. Dr. Johnson, Mrs. Johnson. I'm Darius Williams, the new general manager. On behalf of Le Jardin, I want to personally thank you for your patience during our transition. We're committed to ensuring every guest feels welcome here. How's it been? Keisha asked. The transition? Honest answer? Hard. We lost some customers who didn't like the changes. But we gained more who appreciate what we're trying to build. A restaurant where excellent food and genuine hospitality matter more than maintaining some imaginary aesthetic. And the staff? We brought back everyone who was fired for speaking up, gave them raises, implemented profit sharing, and we created an anonymous reporting system, so if discrimination happens from staff or customers, people can report it without fear. It's not perfect, but it's better. After he left, their waiter approached. Carlos. Still there. Still serving. Dr. Johnson, Mrs. Johnson. I'm so glad you came back. We promised we would. The food is going to be incredible tonight. Chef is making something special for you. No charge, he insists. Carlos, we're paying. I know, but he wants to do this. He says thank you for making it possible for him to cook for everyone, not just some people. Dinner was perfect. The food was exceptional, somehow even better than Marcus remembered. The service was attentive without being intrusive, and the view of the city lights was exactly what he'd wanted for Keisha 20 years into their marriage. Halfway through the meal, a family approached their table. Black couple, late 30s, with 2 young kids. "Dr. Johnson, Mrs. Johnson, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to thank you. We tried to get a reservation here 2 years ago. Same thing happened mysteriously, not in the system. We gave up. But because of what you did, we tried again. And tonight is our first time here. Our daughter's birthday. She wanted to come to the fancy restaurant where that doctor fought for people. So, thank you for teaching our kids that fighting is worth it." Their daughter, maybe 9 years old, looked up at Marcus with wide eyes. "Did you really make them give you your table?" Marcus smiled. "I did, because it was my table. And nobody gets to take what's yours just because they don't think you deserve it. My mom says you're a hero. I'm not a hero. I'm just someone who was tired of being treated unfairly. That's what heroes do," the girl said seriously. "They fight when they're tired." After the family left, Keisha reached across the table, took Marcus's hand. 20 years. And you're still teaching people to fight. I learned from the best. Flatterer. Truth teller. They finished their meal, ordered dessert, watched the city lights while Carlos brought them the chef's special creation, a chocolate masterpiece with 20 years written in gold leaf. When the check came, Marcus paid full price, left a generous tip, and walked out of Le Jardin with his head high and his wife's hand in his. In the parking lot, Keisha pulled him close. "So, was it worth it? Fighting for 3 months to have the dinner we could have had quietly somewhere else?" Marcus looked back at the restaurant. Through the windows, he could see families of every background dining together. Could see Carlos serving with dignity. Could see the new host greeting customers with genuine warmth. Could see what was possible when people refused to accept discrimination as the cost of doing business. "Yeah," he said. "It was worth it." 6 months later, Marcus received an email from an unexpected source. Tyler Brennan. Subject: "I owe you an apology. Dr. Johnson, I know you have no reason to read this, or to believe anything I say, but I need to say it anyway. I was wrong about everything. I spent 6 months after being fired angry at you, blaming you for destroying my career, telling myself I was just following policy, that I didn't create the discrimination, I just enforced it. But my girlfriend, now ex-girlfriend, asked me a question that I couldn't answer. If I knew what I was doing was wrong, why did I keep doing it? And I realized I didn't have a good answer. I told myself it was my job, that I was protecting the business, that customers like you were the exception and I was serving the majority. But really, I was just comfortable with discrimination. It didn't hurt me, so I didn't care that it hurt others. I'm not writing this to ask for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm writing because I'm in therapy now, working on understanding why I thought treating people the way I treated you was acceptable. And part of my therapist's work is taking accountability. So, I'm sorry for canceling your reservation, for lying to your face, for giving your table to someone else, for making your anniversary about fighting instead of celebrating, for being part of a system that treats people like you as less than. I can't undo what I did, but I can promise I'm working to be better. I'm volunteering now with a non-profit that helps people experiencing homelessness. It's teaching me to see people I used to ignore. It's not enough, but it's a start. I don't expect a response. I just needed you to know you were right, and I was wrong, and I'm sorry. Tyler Brennan. Marcus read the email 3 times. showed it to Keisha. "Do you believe him?" she asked. "I don't know, maybe. People can change. But saying you're changing and actually doing it are different things. Are you going to respond?" Marcus thought about it. About Tyler Brennan, privileged, protected by family, enabled by systems that rewarded his discrimination. About whether people like that could actually change or if they just learned to hide their prejudice better. But he also thought about Eleanor Williams, about her kids asking if benefiting from racism made them racist, about Carlos getting his job back, about that little girl calling him a hero for fighting when he was tired, about the possibility that accountability could lead to growth instead of just punishment. He typed a response. "Tyler, I appreciate you writing this. I don't know if you've genuinely changed, or if this is part of some therapeutic exercise that won't last, but I hope it's real. Because the world needs fewer people who are comfortable with discrimination and more people who are uncomfortable enough to change it. You can't undo what you did to my family, or the other 46 families we identified, or the countless others we didn't, but you can make sure you never do it again. And if your volunteer work is genuine, you can use your privilege to dismantle systems instead of maintaining them. I'm not interested in friendship, but I'll acknowledge the apology. What you do with that acknowledgement is up to you." Marcus Johnson. He hit send, closed his laptop, and decided that was enough energy spent on Tyler Brennan. 1 year after the incident, Le Jardin was thriving. Monthly reports showed customer demographics that actually reflected the city's diversity. Staff retention was up. Customer satisfaction scores were higher than they'd been in 5 years. And the compensation fund had paid out $1.8 million to families who'd been excluded. Marcus and Keisha made Le Jardin their regular anniversary spot, not because the food was the best in the city, though it was excellent, but because it was a reminder that fighting worked, that standing up mattered, that one family refusing to accept discrimination could change an entire system. On their 21st anniversary, Carlos served them again. "You know," he said while pouring wine, "we have a picture of you in the staff room from that first night." The manager hung it there with a quote, "This is what it looks like when someone refuses to disappear. That's either inspiring or creepy," Keisha said. "Little bit of both," Carlos admitted. "But every new employee sees it during orientation, sees your face, and learns that this restaurant exists in its current form because you wouldn't stay quiet. That's powerful." After he left, Amara, now 17 and applying to colleges, looked up from her phone. "Dad, someone from the Washington Post wants to interview you about the anniversary of the lawsuit. Should I tell them yes?" Marcus looked at Keisha. She shrugged. "Your call. Tell them yes, but not about the lawsuit, about what came after, about the restaurants that changed policies because they saw what happened here, about the families who found the courage to speak up, about Carlos and the other workers who got their jobs back. That's the real story. Got it? Also, Jordan got accepted to Howard. He wants to study civil rights law." Marcus looked at his 14-year-old son, now 15, and suddenly looking older. "Civil rights law? Since when?" Jordan shrugged. "Since I watched you fight. Figured if you can make restaurants change by refusing to leave, maybe I can make bigger things change by knowing the law." Keisha wiped her eyes. "Don't make me cry in this dress." "Too late," Amara said, snapping a picture. "This is going on Instagram. Number Johnson family wins." Marcus laughed. Then he raised his glass. "To 21 years, to fights that were worth it, to tables we claimed and spaces we changed, and to never, ever accepting less than we deserve. They clinked glasses, and through the window of Le Jardin, the city lights sparkled like they were celebrating too. Because some battles change more than just the people who fight them. Some battles change the world. And Marcus Johnson, doctor, husband, father, and accidental activist, had learned that the most important battles were the ones you didn't plan for. The ones that started with a simple reservation and ended with a revolution.